think after that's the next one will be
Meeting minutes as reported. Everybody did? Good job, thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We have one presentation on for today, I believe, and that's Matt Morrow with probation safety. Matt? They're not.
Or should I be here?
Yep, that's fine.
I love public speaking, so thanks everybody for having me. Oh, I'm speaking into the microphone probably. The mission of the Lewis County Probation Department is to provide community protection and public safety in conjunction with the delivery of rehabilitative services to our clients. We believe these offenders should be held accountable to their victims, to the community, and at the same time develop skills to become responsible, law-abiding members of society. That's a good distinction to point out. We're a little bit different than the sheriff's office. Our clients are convicted offenders. They've been convicted of a crime. That's not always the case when the sheriff's office or the village police get called out somewhere. So currently our sworn probation officers, there's 5 of us. There's me, I'm the director. We have a senior probation officer, Sarah Bush, Lisa Rennie, Marcus Spalding, and Kylie Simpson are all our 3 probation officers. Kylie and Marcus are both here today. Sarah is at a training and Lisa has today off, so she couldn't be here. According to New York State DCJS Integrated Probation Registrant System, HIPERS is what we call it, as of August 1st, we had 199 total active probation cases. The green on the bottom is the numbers that I submit to you. We have 169 adult probationers. So what that means is some of them have more than one probation case. So in HIPERS, it looks like we have a few more probationers than what we actually do. 48 of those 169 are DWI probationers. We also supervise 20 conditional discharges for ignition airlock cases. We have 6 drug court participants. When they're participating in drug court, they're on interim probation with us. Kylie has 11 juveniles right now. We have 2 pretrial release cases, and we're always working on pre-sentence investigations for the court. So we have 15 of those currently.
Is that where you'll provide recommendations to the court after a conviction?
Yep.
So whether they would qualify or would be a good candidate for probation?
Yep, we do sentencing recommendations. It's basically the individual's whole life story for the court, so they can help make up their mind about sentencing. Typically in Lewis County, there are plea deals made, so we don't have a lot of say in the sentence, but sometimes they're pre-pleas and then our recommendations hold a little more water in those instances. New York State Criminal Procedure Law, Section 210, designates people as peace officers, and probation officers are one of those classes of people, so we are peace officers under New York State law. Criminal Procedure Law also dictates some powers that peace officers have. So I highlighted a few of them. We have the power to make warrantless arrests, the power to use physical force and deadly physical force in making an arrest or preventing an escape. We have the power to carry out warrantless searches whenever such searches are constitutionally permissible and acting pursuant to our special duties. We actually do a lot of probation searches. We do a lot of that on our home visits. All of our probationers have conditions of probation that they will submit their person, property, automobile, or any other object to search and seizure to us. We have the power to possess and take custody of firearms not owned by the peace officer for the purpose of disposing, guarding, or any other lawful purpose consistent with our duties as a peace officer. And then New York State has an Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives, OPCA. And OPCA gives us rules and regulations. So under the rules and regulations of OPCA, probation officers are again peace officers. OPCA rules dictate that each director of probation shall, in accordance with law, develop, implement, and maintain a peace officer policy in writing, specifying, among other things, when such officers acting as peace officers are to be considered performing their official duties as employees of the probation department, if and when such officers may use, carry, or possess a firearm while on duty, and when and under what conditions such officers may carry out arrests, search and seizure functions, and execute warrants. Just this year, OPCA had us, all the probation departments had to update their warrant policy. So I just updated our warrant policy. Was a little thin, but we've totally updated. We do execute our own warrants quite frequently. I think the law enforcement in the room can testify that that is potentially a pretty dangerous situation, executing your own warrants. This slide and the next slide are probably a little hard to see, so I'll kind of flip through it, but it's probation departments. There are 58 county probation departments in the state right now, and currently 37 of the 58 are authorized to carry firearms. This map points it out a little bit better. So all the counties in orange, which Lewis County is one of the counties in orange, are not authorized to carry firearms presently. Livingston, over on the left side of the map there, is currently in the process of trying to become armed. And it's my understanding that St. Lawrence County, the legislative body, is currently trying to get their department armed. But everybody, except for St. Lawrence, everybody around Lewis County carries firearms. I found some statistics from the FBI in 2020. 93 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty. 46 of those died as a result of a felonious act. 47 officers died in accidents, like a car accident or something. Of those 46 that died as a result of a felonious act, 41 of the 46 were killed by a firearm. Pretty high number.
Is that all law enforcement, not just probation?
That's all law enforcement in 2020, correct? I borrowed these numbers from John Pignon's task force report that he handed out. Lewis County does have a gun problem. The task force found and confiscated a lot of firearms. You can see ghost guns are scary. That's guns that nobody knows about. They're non-traceable. So they've confiscated 3 of those, 2 pistols, 3 revolvers, 6 rifles, 8 shotguns, an assault weapon. This is a picture of some of the firearms that we found. This is actually, it's in the back of Sergeant Knight's vehicle. So he was with us that day. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 guns there. This was last summer. I tried to flip the picture around. That's a sawed-off rifle with a makeshift pistol grip. So currently our officers, when I first started, we had nothing. Then there was an incident about 7 years ago. And after that incident, Mary Jo and us came to the board and said, we need something for a little bit more officer safety. So currently we carry pepper spray, handcuffs, we have body armor, we have the vest, and we have the county radios. The county radios are great. Just this summer, might have been last summer, I was at a residence. We call out on the radio to dispatch and say we're out at the courthouse. 5 minutes, they do a status check to see how we're doing. I was at a residence. It was pretty tense. I was just trying to get out of there. Once It took me 3 or 4 minutes for him to come to the door. He came to the door, I instantly realized he was highly intoxicated, screaming, yelling at me. So all I was trying to do was get back to the car, because we are a little bit different than law enforcement. When they're called to a scene, they have to do whatever they're called there to do. You know, we're making home visits. Our main objective is to get out of there alive, so we can deal with him drinking the next day or next week. So when dispatch asked me for a status check, he's yelling and screaming. I'm trying to backpedal my way to the car, so I just keyed my radio. They could hear him screaming and yelling. When I finally did get to the car and cleared from the residence, a village police officer called me and said he was on his way from the village of Lowville out to Krogan to assist me because he heard that on the radio. So the radios make us a lot safer. The body armor makes us safer. Handcuffs and pepper spray make us safer. We now have it's a police interceptor Ford Explorer with a cage. So our transports became a lot safer now that we have that. There's a picture of that vehicle. There's a better picture of the back window. That happened just this summer in June on a home visit at a trailer park in Lewis County, southern end of the county. The back window got shot out while our officer was talking to a probationer. Above the windshield wiper is the hole, but then, so it's a pellet gun of some sort, but obviously it's a high-powered pellet gun to cause that sort of explosion on the side of the windows there. So clearly I'm here to talk about firearms for our department. The cost of arming our department really is not a heavy lift for the county. $400 to $500 per firearm, $80 to $100 for a holster, approximately $50 for a magazine carrier. There's only 5 of us, so on the high end, we're talking about $3,200 for the department. I had a small price to pay to ensure that this is my family. There are 4 other families just like that want us to come home safely every night. So what's next? If the legislators approve, this is a huge policy change for our department. But if the legislators are in favor of us making this change, I would have to develop a firearm policy in accordance with state law. It says that the probation director shall develop, implement, and maintain that policy. The details, if and when officers may use, carry, or possess a firearm while on duty. We would have to participate in initial firearms training, become certified by New York State to carry a firearm. Thank goodness that we have such great cooperation with Jefferson County probation. They have their own instructors. They're willing to provide us the initial firearms training, as well as all future, recertification, range training. We already do defensive tactics with Jefferson County. They would go over weapons retention and stuff like that with us. That was really quick and brief.
Is there a cost to the training, or are they doing that?
No, that would be no cost. We already do defensive tactics with them. We do our handcuff, pepper spray with them.
Right. Do you all have to be trained the same week?
No. That would be a bit of a, because it's 7 days. We can't just shut down for 7 days. So some of us would go, but we'd kind of have to slowly phase it in.
How does that training regimen compare with what a police officer would go through? It's not quite as rigorous, or how does that?
It's the same. The undersheriff actually said that we could do initial firearms training with them as well. So if we wanted to split it up, half go with the sheriff's office, half go with Jefferson County probation. I think probation in Jefferson would gear their stuff a little bit more towards what probation does, as opposed to what.
Would that include things like de-escalation techniques? Okay.
Mental health training?
Yes, we do all of that stuff presently. And we are all, probably doesn't show it today because I'm nervous up here presenting, but we are all very skilled and trained in verbal judo, that's how I would like to call it. We know how to talk our way out of situations with other people. And we have good rapport with our clients, we all do. But I was talking to a state trooper this morning. There's a big difference. When somebody's under the influence, you have no idea what person you're gonna get. In May, I was kicked. Ended up going to the ER because I was kicked on a home visit. That guy was drunk. Sober him would never in a million years, he thinks we're best friends. Drunk him, that was a whole different ballgame. Same thing with drugs. And with drugs and these, like when the Explorer got the window shot out, Marcus was safe where he was, but there's all the other variables, all the other people in that trailer park, all the other probation associates or family members who are there. So there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty for us.
I can just say that I remember the incident 7 years ago that involved 2 of the probation officers in a house with somebody who had a weapon, and it was for a number of hours, and it was tense, and it was after that we at least got the pepper spray.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do remember at that time, there was some discussion about whether or not you guys really should have firearms, so.
Mary Jo was definitely opposed to that at that time, but I remember
Yeah.
that as well, yeah.
So all of the probation officers, are they on board with it?
So what other counties, every county is different. When Jefferson County rolled it out, I forget the exact number of years ago that they did. But everybody, they're a much larger department, but everybody who was working at the time had the choice, either to carry or not to carry. And then moving forward, all new hires, it was mandatory.
Ian, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So everyone would choose to, do you think everyone would choose to carry your team right now?
I believe the 5 of us, yes. I was posed one question yesterday, what would other area law enforcement think? 'Cause I knew the undersheriff would be here. Chief Taybalt from the village police is actually here, in case anybody had questions for either of them. The state police cannot publicly give a statement, but if any of you have questions for the state police brass in this area, they offered to speak to any of you.
And Matt, I know when you interviewed for the position, I kind of learned a little bit from that process, what probation does. And one of the things that I came away with was just your emphasis that it is a different mission than the police. And at the time, I think you said part of the difference is that you don't carry firearms. But the mission itself is more fundamental than just whether you're carrying or not. In your mind, this doesn't change who you are. You are still, you're not just an arm of the police power of the state. You are there to serve a rehabilitative purpose. Would you say that's correct?
Right. Yeah, I would look at us being armed as more of a deterrent. I would hope, I spoke with Genesee County. They've been armed for 40 years, never had to pull a firearm. They look at it as a deterrent. I can honestly say that a majority of our probationers already think we're armed. We show up in vests and radios and they think we're carrying. So I don't think it's gonna change the dynamic any that we currently have. It would be more of a deterrent for us.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very much, Matt.
Can I add one thing? So the reason that we wanted to get this in front of the committee today is that obviously the budget is going to be due here. And, based on the consensus of the committee, we were gonna add that expense in the budget. So not that you need an up or down vote, but if it seems there's generally, comfortability, we'll go ahead and plug that into to the budget.
So we don't need a resolution supporting this change?
You'll need a resolution to approve the firearm policy that Matt will draft and bring forward through the committee process next year, probably.
Well, I mean, we're not gonna vote on it, but what's the temperature of the committee? I mean, I think he makes a good point about that.
I think it should, I do too, I think it should have been done 2 years ago.
Should have told me.
You know, I was a judge and I worked with you guys, so I understand.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Matt. So we'll move on to our dockets.
The first docket is authorizing an agreement between the County of Lewis and Chimera Integrations LLC for upgrades to existing card access controls at the TSB at a cost of $39,630 with a completion date of December 31st, 2023.
Any discussion? What would this change? Anything, Ryan? What substance?
Chimera is the vendor that we're using for our card access across all of our platforms, so I'm honestly not completely in the loop, but I'm assuming we're trying to just get everything kind of uniformed across the board.
Yeah, we have it's an antiquated system now. Right now, it's, they have issues with it at times. This will bring everything back up to new standards, better technology, and also they would like to add a few other doors to their card access. It will also incorporate the new parking lot that we have, the gate. They have a employee parking gate that would be card access. It'll be incorporated in that as well. So it kind of flows together with the parking lot project.
Jason, did you have anything to add, or is that?
That's, he pretty much summed it all up right there.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Authorizing a renewal agreement with J. Arthur Seal Coating and Contracting for snow plowing, lawn care, and related services at 9 emergency 911 tower sites at a cost of $48,900 per year with a term of October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2025.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Directing the demolition and removal of an unsafe building pursuant to local law number 2-2007 at 6314 East Main Street, Village of Turin.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Appointing Kenneth Johnson of Carthage, New York to fill the unexpired term of Joseph Chason on the Junkyard Review Board effective September 5th, 2023 through December 31st, 2027.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Authorizing a 2023 budget transfer in the amount of $85,000 from legislative special contingency to jail inmate board account line due to high costs of boarding out inmates during the jail HVAC project and the new MAT program.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Appropriating funds in the amount of $83,226.06 received from the sale of the Champion Gravel Pit property into the Capital HAL Reserve Fund for environmental projects and cleanups.
This was the new resolution that was just shared, so any discussion?
Joan, can you just comment on that?
Yeah, so this was the property that Highway Department had since, I believe, the 1950s. And we finally closed on it yesterday. We did discuss whether or not it would be good for this funding to go into the Environmental Project and Cleanup Fund, which is being depleted, actually. We're probably down to about $25,000 with the cleanup we did on the Trinity Ave property. So we want to keep some funding available for some of these demolition projects we're doing because they get kind of costly and we thought, and with Tim's blessing, actually, he agreed to, have his money, go into that fund if the board approves it.
I think the last time we put some funds in that account was a couple years ago. We used some budget surplus at the end of the year. We may have put 50,000 in. Before that, I believe there was a year where we parked our tax delinquency auction revenue in this account. So we kind of find one-offs here and there to keep it replenished. And then as we discover structures that need to have action taken, we've got a pot of money to kind of utilize. So I'm thinking in the budget, Eric and I have been talking about maybe, having a defined amount appropriated for the year so that we're kind of, a little more systematic about how we address some of these properties, but we're in the early stages of that discussion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any motions today. Okay. Is there any other business to bring before the General Services Committee? Larry, did you want to do?
You don't need to.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Made by Dick, second by Andrea. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned.
to order. I will make a motion to approve the August 15th committee meetings if there's no amendments. I'll take a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Carried. For presentations, we have Jerry Gare, Jeff Pellinger from the hospital to talk about health system finances. Welcome.
We're going to tag team on this one. Well, thank you for your time this afternoon. Appreciate that. Just so that we can utilize our time most appropriately, are there any questions that you might have that we should be made aware of that we can incorporate into our presentation? Okay, I guess that's a good sign. So you will notice the agenda had us listed as health system finances, which is a nice general reflection. Whenever I meet with Ryan, it seems like we talk about money. And generally I ask for it. And generally he acknowledges it and then I still ask for it. But that's about, and then Eric has been part of that. We want to be a little bit more specific with you today. Believe it or not, we are not asking for money. What we're asking for, and this is the title, funds transfer, repayment of $5,497,355 of $6 million transferred in 2018 from Lewis County General Hospital to Lewis County in support of the Lewis County JCC Education Center, as reflected in Resolution 382-2018. These funds will support the hospital's reopening of its maternity service and the surgical pavilion and med-surg CCU revitalization capital projects. So we're not asking for new money. We are asking to return the transfer from 2018. So it is, which I think is an important distinction. So the key words in the request, repayment of the 5.5 million, and what these funds would be used for if needed, that is to support the reopening of maternity. And I believe specifically in year one and likely in year two, maybe three, that there will have to be some additional support. And the surgical pavilion and the hospital's revitalization capital projects. Want to say it for the third time, we are not requesting new funding, but are asking for 2018 funds to be transferred back to LCHS. So our agenda is, in broad strokes, the proposed women health service model, financial projections, the discussion on where we are in our capital project as reflected on the surgical pavilion, and then just open discussion with you. At this point, I'll hand this part of our presentation over to Jeff.
All right, my portion of the presentation is to talk about women's health services, the model that we are proposing with maternity, and also what a model looks like without maternity. So our proposal is as follows. So in women's health, to offer a 5-day-a-week service with maternity, we'll need 3 full-time physicians, 2 full-time nurse practitioners, some LPNs and clerks. And you also need a maternity department to take care of the baby and the mom. And that will consist of 2 RN staff members at our facility 24 hours a day. We also have 1 full-time LPN in the maternity department along with the department manager. For that, complement of staff, the rough breakdown of expenses are 1.5 million for the physicians, 300,000 for the full-time family nurse practitioners. The support staff and all the benefits equal about 2.65 million. We do have operating expenses within the Women's Health Clinic of 310,000. So just in the clinic, it would be about $3 million of expenses for that complement of staff. You also need maternity services, so you'll need 12 full-time RNs, an LPN, and the manager. So when you look at that staffing model, the payroll is about 2.2 million. There is a little bit of operating expense in the maternity department, so that expense is about 2.23 million. If we would consider a women's health clinic only without maternity, you do not need the third full-time physician. You only need the full-time physician to cover 1 in 3 call. So if that is not a requirement, a full women's health practice can be done with 2 full-time physicians and 2 nurse practitioners. There'll be a couple less support staff. So with that, the projected salaries and benefits drop just under 2 million. And overall, it's about 2.16 million. And this would be without maternity. The revenue that goes along with the clinic and maternity model, you have just over 10,000 clinic visits, which would produce about 1.3 million. There would be 60 deliveries in 2024, and that would net just under 600,000. And there would be about 400 operating room cases throughout the year performed by the 3 full-time physicians at about 1.5 million. So when you look at the revenue of 3.3 million in the total expense, so the expenses, the clinic and the maternity department of 5.2 million, we run a deficit of just over $1.8 million. If you look at the financial projections without maternity, there's less clinic visits because you go from 3 full-time doctors to 2. So now you have 9,000 clinic visits, about 1.1 million. You still run about the same operating room cases. Instead of giving births, you have time for a few other additional cases. So we left that at 400 cases in the operating room at 1.5 million. So the revenue is just under 2.6 million. And the expense, because of the 1 less physician in the maternity department, drops to 1.3 million. So you end up with a surplus of about 1.3 million versus a deficit of 1.8 million. The financial impact for 2024, the 1.8 million is a yearly impact, and we were looking at 2024 of about 8 months of maternity coverage, starting in 8 months of the year. So that'd be about 1.2 million. And then when you contrast that against the clinic only of a gain of 1.3 million, the financial impact is just about 2.5 million. So you go from a surplus to a deficit. So what we would be looking at is our need is to at least cover the cost to bring maternity back down to break even, which would be a $1.2 million need to erase at least the deficit that we would incur by taking on maternity for 8 months out of the year.
So to sort of sum up what Jeff is sharing with you, we built the initial budget based on 12 months of activity. In the FY24 budget, we're reflecting 8 months of activity because of the additional physician support we will need before we turn on maternity. So that's why the change. And also going into FY25, we would expect a full complement of births, and we would be projecting 180 plus in 2025. So that's one piece of what we're managing. The other is the surgical pavilion and Lewis County General Hospital modernization initiative. Let me just move that chair out of the way. So what we're trying to reflect here is what's happening with the budget and where we are in the project. Right now, as of 2 weeks ago, we are projecting March 8, 2024 as the completion of the project. And the bond, which this body supported, was for $32 million. And you can see how it's broken up among the various primes and the other pieces of the project. We've had change orders up to date of $1.3 million. And without considering credits, we would be at $33.4 million on the project. So what were the change orders? Well, the first significant change order was the additional rock that had to be removed. As you know, we built into the hill. We thought we had projected based on the engineering, but there was much more rock removed than we could have appreciated. And that alone was over $800,000. We had to replace a water line that went the entire length of the property. Again, that was an unexpected. And then fuel line, the road entrance, guardrails, generator hookup, but an equally substantive change in our expenses was redesign of the first floor of the surgical pavilion. You will remember when we first did the estimates for the project, and before we sent it out to bid, we dealt with the pandemic, the early phases of the pandemic. And when we had the initial estimates and then we put it back out for review, we needed to cut $9 million from the project. And in order to do that, we had to redesign the first floor of the surgical pavilion. So the surgical pavilion, lower level, is probably about 60% of what it was initially designed. And that was the COVID inflation impact. What we have not yet received are all the credits that we've earned over the project. We have requested that from the architect, and I'm hoping that we see that before our next capital oversight committee meeting, which is a committee of standing for the board of managers. So at this point, without the credits, we are looking at $1.4 million over the $32 million that we bonded for the project. So that is the second piece of how we would use the return fund transfer to LCGH. So there's a lot of detail in this. I actually have printed copies for the board members. But you can see exactly what the original bids are and what the total cost is per the contractor, the general contractor, the primes, the engineering group, and CNS, our project management team.
So can I just ask you a question, Gary, at this point before we lose it? So the initial bid was 25.6 million, and you're coming, and the total projected is 24.4, $800,000 over. The bottom list is all supposed to be credits?
No, the bottom reflects the cost for engineering, project management, and a sundry of expenses. And then we also incorporated the furniture and then contingency. So the total cost of the project is the $32 million. That's what we had built the budget based upon.
Okay.
Yeah, so all we're doing is separating the construction part of the project from the non-construction part of the project. So the actual building of the building is the 25.6, and then everything below that was in support of the people who built the building.
Okay.
So, this is where, we're prepared to answer questions. If there's something that is not clear, so I appreciate the clarifying question. the word credits is not aligned with what you see to the right, so you can see where that might have happened. We just haven't received the credits list yet. That's what's forthcoming, okay?
That would be in green.
That would be in green, so that was, everything in red is truly red, and everything below will be green. Now, do we expect $1.4 million worth of credits? That's not likely. But we don't know what that number is yet.
Ideally, what kind of timeline would you want for this? What was the phrase transfer of?
Yeah, obviously, we're all part of the same team, part of the larger organization. And does something fundamentally change if it doesn't happen tomorrow? We would work with the county to see what would make the most sense. And we do have a cash balance, we have reserves. But you'll remember, one of the changes we made about 5 years ago, we made a pledge as a health system that we would keep 2 months' worth of operating expenses. So that's $14 million. And we've done that, and it's in policy, so we take that seriously. We also have, in December, our retirement invoices due, pension, and that's
Around 4 million.
4 million. And we also, and so when you do those two things and you take away the balance of the bond that we have left, which is about $7.5 million, we have in reserves not accounted for $4 million. So sooner is better, but clearly we work with the county on what would meet the county's needs.
So there is currently an MOU for the repayment.
Yes, and that is, that's how come it's not $6 million. The county sends an administrative allocation to the health system of $250,000 a year. I think every year Ryan and Eric hear from Jeff and Jerry that the methodology has to change. I still feel like that's a legitimate point that we should discuss. For example, we have a full human resources department, we have a finance department, and we pay, I believe, a disproportionate share on some of those things. That's healthy administrative banter that I think we would just work our way through. But at the end of the day, I appreciate that the county will allocate their share to us. And we should build that into our operating budget each year versus not doing that. So when we have to pay for it, we have to pay for it. But I do think it would be most appropriate to evaluate if the share is the right number.
And there is an IGT payment, another one coming up for this year, we anticipate.
Yes, and the IGT payment is a blend of local resources, so in this case the county, and the state of New York sharing a federal pass-through. And so that works its way to us. We have some incredibly unusual expenses compared to the traditional healthcare systems. One is the state retirement program. When you put the state retirement program with our health insurance program, it's about $7 million. And in my business world, we should be somewhere between 2 and 4. That gap is what would be the operating margin for a traditional healthcare system. So the IGT is a way to help address that. Now, the IGT is not fail-proof either. They meaning government, state government, will determine what our share is, and then they will also look back in time, and suddenly what they paid us is not what they think they should have paid us. So it is a process that is not like this. It is up and down. I think collectively, Eric, Ryan, Jeff, and I have done a pretty good job navigating that to minimize the impact. So the IGT payments that are forthcoming is the 2022 from the nursing home. Long-term care is under such stress. that the fact it's September 2023 and the IGT hasn't arrived is ridiculous. But those things we can't control. So there is both a hospital IGT payment and the long-term care payment. The long-term care payment is for 2022 and for the hospital it's 2023, correct?
I'm being told it's about $5 million a year that the county pays for IGT, so the hospital can get 10 million. Would you concur with that?
It definitely varies from year to year. So some years, the nursing home might be 1 million or 2 million. We do not know what the 2022 amount is. I received an email, nothing official, that it could be anywhere between 4.8, 5 million. So the county would contribute half in order for us to get the 5 million on the nursing home. But it does vary. Some years we owe money back. So it really depends on the year and how formula is calculated.
And we do build a projected number into the annual budget. But when you consider last year's budget, we're still waiting for that receivable. And so it'll be a help. So whatever the number is, it's half of the county's obligation.
But the county could be needing to pay $5 million before year end.
For the IGT,
IGT.
no, I don't think, it
Not
will not
clear.
be that high for this, the remainder of this year.
No.
No.
It could potentially be $2.5 million.
Well, for the full year, it's about 5 million.
We paid out about 3 million earlier this, 3.6 million earlier this year.
Plus another 1.52 million. 3 year. So, like 5 million.
The 3 million that was paid earlier was a reconciliation of 3 years worth of IGT payments. So it wasn't just 1 year, it was a reconciliation of 3 years.
Right, because we, previous years, the last 2 years, I believe, we were lower than expected. So
And then in 2018 or somewhere in that era, it was 14 covering the 3 previous years.
Yeah, there was a large payment in 2018, and then unfortunately for us, we went 3 years with no money because they miscalculated the 2018 amount, which then almost like prepaid the next 3 years for the hospital. So you did end up having to pay quite a bit of money in 2018, but then there was no payments really for 19, 20, 21 because of the kind of the prepayment.
Right, and those are the years we just reconciled.
Right.
So, we talk about this at budget time every year, and it actually came up at the NISAC conference among some of the county administrators last week. The way New York State Department of Health runs the IGT program is frustrating for everybody because it is very difficult to calculate. And even when we think we've got it right, they do these 3-year look backs that kind of recalculate everything. It's based on past year's expenditures. So when those, you don't always know them until they've been expended. I every year talk about a budget. I encourage us to kind of look at the IGT, over time, because when you can't just say it's X amount of dollars every year, because that's never the way it works out. We run a cash basis budget, which means these payments really wreak havoc on us. But really, you got to think about it almost like an accrual budget. So we collected taxes for an IGT payment in 2020 that we didn't really have to pay. Well, then they did reconciliation earlier this year, and we did have to pay some of it. So by then, it's in our fund balance, and we feel like it's ours. But we have to remember that we did put that on the levy in order to pay at IGT. So it's a difficult process. It's frustrating, but there's not much we can do about it.
And another reason why the repayment would be important to me is the interest payment that is generated on that $5.5 million. So with 4 and 5% interest rates, that's another $275,000 of funds the hospital could use to further their operations. So that would be another reason why it would be nice to have that returned.
The other point I would make, and then I'm going to shift us over to maternity. Once the pandemic struck and we lost the 8 nurses, and it had a profound impact on our ability to maintain maternity service, From that day forward, it was about how do we move from a pause status to unpause status. And, had the support of the Board of Managers that this is the direction they wanted us to go in. I've three or so sessions with the Board of Legislators, and this board had always expressed strong support. Let's move forward, and however we have to help them, we have to help. But at that point in time, we couldn't quantify what that help would be. We knew that the subsidy required would be somewhere in the $2 million range. So it didn't seem logical to ask for money here when there was this transfer here, and then allowing us the flexibility to manage those funds to address if we have a shortfall in the maternity service. We will always have a shortfall in the maternity service. In light of some other comments that have been made over the past, 6 months, maternity will not cover its costs. One, we would have to deliver many more babies than we do, and two, we'd have to have a vastly different payer mix in Lewis County. But what we also try to do is the areas where we generate income, let's generate more income, and then those resources is how we basically subsidize within our operations all the service lines that do not cover their costs. If we strictly viewed healthcare as a for-profit enterprise that only those service lines that generate a profit can stay in existence, we wouldn't be here. So it's about maximizing opportunity, and one of those opportunities is increasing our surgical throughput, which is why we've invested in the surgical pavilion, and we're going to have 4 operating rooms. So, I think our plan to support moving forward with the maternity service as we have outlined over the last 18 months is solid. But going into next year's budget, we will need to support that service line. So right now, we are in the final leg of finalizing the 2024 budget. We still have some more work to do, but we're looking right now at a shortfall of about $1.5 million. And, before you see it, we will get it to break even, but we haven't done that yet. We're working on it. I'm actually feeling pretty good where we are at this stage of the process.
And that's with or without maternity?
With.
So in reality, do you really feel we would have those employees to keep this running?
Yeah, we are working.
I was just a patient there, and I was very surprised. It was 1 nurse for 3 people in the unit. And the day before, it was closed because they didn't have enough help, I was told. I was told that.
Yeah,
It kind of worries me, and now we're looking at this big project, and do we really have people who are willing to be employed in our healthcare system?
Every
I
healthcare
don't-
organization has open positions. And we are, through a combination of ongoing recruitment, retention, engagement with JCC and BOCES, that's how you do it. And overtime and agency help travelers. So that's how we're doing that. I think we're several years removed from having enough in the workforce, but in the last 2 days, I've spoken with the superintendent at BOCES, I've spoken with the president of JCC, and I've spoken with the nurse executive responsible for the training, the nursing program at JCC. They have gone from 48 to 60 students. In 3 weeks into the program, they still have the 60 students. Those
So do we have
students.
to improve our income that we pay these people to keep them here? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, something fundamentally changed with COVID,
Yes.
right? I would say we're competitive in our pay rates. We do make adjustments depending on data that supports we might be out of line in a particular area. Next year, we're gonna start again negotiating a new contract. So it's a very fluid process. We have 100 open positions. I don't expect all 100 to be filled. They're not all nurses.
Doctors.
Combination
You have
of-
doctors on this plan?
Yep. Yep, we have two,
I don't-
and we have a third coming that we need to fill out the call schedule, which is why this can't start on January 1.
You do have a third position coming?
No, we have two.
Okay. You
That-
said you have a third.
Yeah, we need a third
You need a third.
to complete the call schedule, yes.
So you can mention, the 5.4, but then also additional support for maternity,
Right.
from additional support from the hospital or from the county.
No, it would be from the hospital supported by the transfer coming back to us.
Okay.
That's the idea, is return the money we lent, and then we use those resources to support the services we're providing.
So for 2024, if you deliver 60 babies, it would be, subsidized at $30,000 a delivery. You're saying 1.8 million. And that 60 number statistically is less safe if you do not deliver, I believe it's 250 babies a year. So this is, it would be half the year, and I do understand that part of it. But, is there a possibility to get to a safe number and also a number that it wouldn't need to be subsidized in Lewis County?
I think prior to COVID, we were safely delivering babies, and we were at about 180. Post-COVID, prior to COVID, it was not a service that ran break even or positive. It was a service that required resources from those lines that generate a bottom line. That won't change. I think what I guess I need to clearly understand from this board and from the board of managers, if the appetite to move forward with maternity is not there, we need to know. And we've been very clear, in order for us to do this, we would need some external support. I understand how that is not politically pleasing. That is where it made sense then, instead of asking for additional resources, let's ask for the transfer that we made in 2018 to come back to our fund balance, and then we have to manage. We try to run the operation like an enterprise fund, like the transfer station. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. The county, with the exception of the IGT support, has not supported the healthcare system. And we've been able to meet our obligations. I understand there was a history back in the day, but we are far removed from those days. We are a large employer. We have a large economic footprint to Lewis County, and we are an essential service. Our economic footprint is well over $125 million a year. So we can either invest and drive more activity and strengthen, or not. And if we don't, then I think it'll become more difficult moving forward. Our average age of plant before the project was 23 years, which is ancient in my world. And we've changed that. We will have a modern facility, but we will not be over the top. It'll be state-of-the-art, appropriate for a rural health system. That's what you want, I believe. And I believe if we don't do maternity services, we add to the maternity desert that exists in rural New York today. So my understanding has been all along that the Board of Legislators was supportive. My understanding was the Board of Managers are supportive, and we are to move forward. I believe we can grow our deliveries, and we will definitely be able to grow the GYN part of the service line. And so we can then meet the healthcare needs of women of all ages in Lewis County. And those services appropriate to stay local. Keep the dollars in Lewis County. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think we've developed a good business model that allows us to do that. In spite of the pandemic, And, you know, in spite of the pandemic, we're still investing. We're still trying to grow. We've seen increased activity in this past year that is greater than we had in previous years. So I think there are a lot of good things happening.
I think that, you know, this board, as a hospital board manager, would all love to see healthy babies born in Lewis County. I do remember, you know, I do kind of wonder if there is an appetite in the community to, you know, subsidize 150 births for thousands of dollars. And I don't know that answer. And I feel
But
like that
we
is.
subsidize access to primary care too. Right. We subsidize pretty much access to nearly all of our services with but a handful. So that is, I think, if you view yourself as the community health system, that's what we need to do.
But what's different about subsidizing for primary care and all those is that it's not this large of a subsidy.
That's probably correct, but the 26-year-old mom who has to travel some distance, we have done deliveries, by the way, since the pause. They've all been emergency deliveries because they weren't able to make it outside of the county. So it's not like deliveries went away. The difference is they weren't planned, and before they were planned.
If you get back up to 180 births, which is where deliveries what we had, you know, prior to COVID, the subsidy becomes much less than $2 million, right?
Yeah, much less because of the other essential part, and Jeff made reference to it, is doing the non-maternity surgeries, the GYN work. That's what really drives the economic model of women's health
So
services.
it'd be more painful the first couple of years until you get that book of business back up. But if you can get it up to where it was, then it won't necessarily be $2 million every year. It will be significantly less.
Well, and you know, to me, numbers are nuanced, so I would look at it as 1.8. If we had a full year, it becomes 1.2 in a partial year, and it's going to be somewhere between in 2025.
Any other questions?
Would you all like a copy of the PowerPoint? That'd be helpful. Sure.
Distributed it earlier.
I would think you.
Well, thank you for coming. We will not move on anything today, but we will, quarterly discussion. You'll hear it from us.
I once had an interview, that's what you should
Yes, yes.
Well, if you, from a budget building perspective, if you anticipate not being endorsing maternity, we really need to know, because it will fundamentally, well, that would be a heck of a message that we have to communicate to the community, because the expectation is we're moving forward with maternity. And not once have I thought that we wouldn't do that. So we would just need to know.
Anything else about it?
The first docket is appropriating funds due to additional state aid and community services account lines from 5.4% COLA effective on April 1st, 2022, 4% COLA effective April 1st, 2023, a one-time payment for supported housing and a stipend increase, and a one-time payment for school-based clinic enhancement.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Carried.
Authorizing renewal agreement between Lewis County Community Services and Rubenzoll Knudsen and Associates for CPL 730 Psychological Services at a rate of $150 per hour for psychological exams and $175 per hour for court testimony for the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Carries.
Transferring funds in Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act account lines in the amount of $8,500 from dislocated worker program to the adult program per notice of obligation authority, PY 22-5.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Carries.
Appropriating funds in Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act account lines in the amount of $37,705.08 for the youth program per the notice of obligational authority, PY 23-1.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Carries.
And the last one is appropriating funds in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act account lines in the amount of $42,701.14 for the Adult and Dislocated Workers Program for the Notice of Obligational Authority, PY 23-2.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. And that is it for the committee. I will make a motion to adjourn. If I can get a second. Okay, adjourn. Thank you.
First thing we got is the minutes from the August 15th meeting and the August 28th meeting were sent out. If there is any questions or comments on them, need a motion to approve them. Motion made by Josh,
Yes.
second Jessica. Gary? Moving along, we've got a presentation, discussion items for the 2024 tentative capital budget and personnel by Brian, Purchasing Director, and Ryan Passaic, County Manager. Looks like we got 13 minutes for Brian and 2 for Ryan.
Brian and I, we're trying.
Brian's got the whole thing going.
I just got capital. Just be quick. There's a lot more to discuss than this. So this is just a 2024 capital plan, just to know that it's a work in progress. And the kind of budget's due in November, so just want to give you an idea of where we're headed in any discussion or input you'd like to speak up, please. So this is the 6th annual 5-year capital plan. The idea is to have a plan long-term, just put our investments context, make sure we don't forget about things, and, we shouldn't have something come up all of a sudden that, oh, we need it tomorrow because we weren't planning. So it's just better track, expenditures. And we're getting better. There's still some things this year that came up out of, that weren't on the past plan, but we're definitely working better. So here's just a snapshot of the past year's capital equipment. So the 2024, we're projecting just about 1.3 million, so down just a little from last year, but I feel like that 1 million to 1.3 is a good range. I mean, and you should look at it, big picture, that capital should be about 3% of the overall budget. So the county budget is 60 million. We're looking at 1.8 total, so we're 1.3 equipment. You'll see the project is a little over $1 million, so we're a little higher than that, 3%, but we're in pretty good shape. So here's just some of the things we're looking to add or upgrade. Buildings and grounds, they're upgrading a compact tractor, loader and snow blower, and a floor scrubber for the highway facility. Highway didn't have a floor machine before, now they have a nice new building going into, so we want to maintain that appearance. And probation, we're looking to add a new SUV to them. They'll actually replace a current one, but by making it a stop DWI, we can get funds from the state to offset it, so that $50,000 would be $25,000 from the county and $25,000 from the state. So it maintains it, and then they can use the vehicle for public engagement, with the stop DWI logo all over it. And you'll see more in the capital budgets that I passed out as more explanation. Well, the sheriff's department looking to add a drone. We started last year a replacement plan for the radar detectors, so we're looking at 3 new radar detectors each year. They want to upgrade their fingerprint scanner. They want to do a complete uniform switchover. They've had some issues finding or restocking their uniform now, they said. They don't make the same material, so they have mismatched uniforms. They last did one in 2017, I believe. And they want to replace some of the office furniture. They took a lot from the Glenfield School after GSS moved back to Lavelle, and there's just a couple of offices they need to address, so about $7,000 for that. Solid waste, they're definitely looking to replace the road tractor, the 156. The roll-off containers is going to be kind of a budget thing for them. Actually, solid waste is different than the whole budget, but we just want to give you a picture on their department. Here's highway. This attachment is in the budget you have in front of you too. Basically, just to show the addition of highway this year, they would add a new snowplow, haul truck, and a loader. And then on CHIPS, which is state funded, would be a roadside mower and a mini telehandler forklift to be covered by the state. So that's their breakdown there. Any questions, you can let myself or Tim know. We can help you out there. And now on the projects, so that's anything expenditure of 10,000 or more. It's just facility, more large scale projects. We're doing pretty good now. Obviously, we had the capital project ongoing. Again, here's a breakdown of the capital projects over the past years. And this year we're a little lighter. We're at just over 1.1 million. So here are the projects we're looking at, is to replace all the overhead doors at PSB. They're original to the building, some are having some issues. Adel County's recommended to do this, so we're looking at $75,000. For IT, we're looking to continue the soft phone upgrade to part 2 for $50,000. The printer contracts, we're gonna renew that, that's $50,000, that's over 5 years, that $50,000. And then to revamp our Microsoft 365 Office suite, would be $30,000. HR is looking to add a new software for onboarding, training, and policies, and that is a little bit with the Sheriff's Department for their policies for corrections in the Sheriff's Department. So it's a $90,000 software package. We're on year 2 of 6 for the aerial imagery flight, so it's $52,000 a year. And the sheriff for project looking to do new civil software. The program they had before is no longer supported, so this will aid in the execution of warrants and everything else the civil department does. And then also looking to add a camera system in Osceola for the intersection there. There's been some discussion. That would be all state funded, that $30,000. Capital projects for the highway, they have $3.4 million from CHIPS. So they're looking, they would strike $75,000 worth of roads, which is about a third of their county roads. These are the bridges that are currently in design with a couple for construction coming, everything's been pushed off. The main addition would be $600,000 out of county funds to aid in the Main Street Glenfield Complete Streets project. They're looking to take place next year. That's looking at $4.2 million is the total cost, I believe, which CHIPS will fund a lot of that plus the county share. So that's where they're gonna pay 2.5 miles, Main Street, Blue Street, in the town of Martinsburg. They would seal 49 miles of roads. Basically, the area is north of Lau. Tim has a breakdown if you want to know exact roads he's thinking, and about $200,000 in guide roads. Big question is how we're going to pay for it. You look at the breakdown, the first current balances of what we have as of right now in our project counts, the 2.2 in the project and 216 in the equipment. What we still have encumbered, we're a little over $1 million for projects, 85 for equipment. What we're looking to add, we need 1.4 for equipment, 1.13 for projects. We already the board already appropriated 1.7 million for the PSB, which we're looking, that's gonna come in about $1 million, so we already have 700,000 excess. So all we need to transfer in this year would be 300,000 in projects and 1.4 in equipment. So we're looking for $1.7 million to do all those projects and equipment we just talked about. There's a couple other items in the equipment that were brought up that we didn't push forward, but that's up for your review too. Just so we want to put it in front of you to see what else was brought. Just we didn't think it was the right time to do it. And I also just want to point out there's the capital cleanup fund. It had $55,000. We did the demolition on Trinity Ave. That's costing $35,000. So that leaves $20,000 in this fund. I know there's 2 other properties that are starting to come up. If we want to keep going, Eric and I talked that we could possibly add funds from budget or the sale of the gravel pit because it leaves us with $20,000. We want to keep a fund there, so just something to make note of.
We actually moved forward with the sale of the gravel pit revenue with a late resolution today. So
Okay.
Forward in October.
So yep, so then we're good. So that's all I have. Is there any questions or discussion?
I'd just like to add one thing, which is that if you go back to the
You said you weren't gonna talk.
Mr. Chairman, may I add? So we were a little heavy-handed last year, and luckily we had some projects come in under budget, the PSB parking lot, as well as the box culverts that we did down in Turn. So that gives us a balance that's going to save us going forward this year. So, each of these accounts are kind of separate from our fund balance, but they operate very similar to a fund balance, right? So we've got a little bit left over, which means we're not going to need to ask as much from the taxpayers next year. So that's kind of how that works.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Brian. And now we have an update on the Medicare Advantage plan. Eric.
Yeah, we added this to the agenda, so thanks for a few minutes of time. I've given everybody some short handout. I'm just gonna hit the bullet points on the first page. So just trying to provide a little additional information, questions that have come up as we move, consider the move for retirees to the Medicare Advantage Plan. So trying to cover a few of those items. There certainly will be more questions, hopefully, and information as we continue to move forward. So the first item there, you see listed the Broome County Purchasing Alliance. You're familiar with that now. We've been calling it the BCPA. So the Plan 1 benefit listing, I've got 4 pages for that behind in your handout. That is on our county website, along with the RX formulary. I think a couple of the presentations we've provided that came from the Broome County Alliance and from United Healthcare are also on our county website that anyone can view. There's been a lot of questions on what is the plan document. United Healthcare is very regimented in the process they go through, and actually the schedule on the bottom of this page is, reflects that. They have everything in order of how they're going to accomplish this. So this 4-page benefit listing is what they make available now. They are working on a plan guide. You can see down in that schedule that is expected to be available and mailed out to all potential retirees at the beginning of October. So there's more information to come. They do not want to provide that plan guide, that full plan guide, until they have it up to their standards, and they're not quite ready to do that yet. Next item, as mentioned, the RX formulary is available on our website. We've had multiple different consultants that we work with look at this formulary, and we expect that it's going to be very comparable, and we believe better, equal to or better than our existing formulary.
So does that mean that the individual drugs will be listed and a copay, or if they're available?
They are listed in the formulary. The copays are standard. Certain drugs will have certain copays, whether they're a generic or a specialty, et cetera. I'd have to look at it myself to see if it lists that. If anybody else can support me there. A drug, if it's listed in the copay, I'm not positive if it says it's generic or specialty. I'd have to look at that.
So we already know what the maximum copay is. The question, I guess, to most retirees is my drug covered?
Yep.
And yet,
So the formulary tells you if it's covered, and I'm not specifically sure, I can't answer your question if it says if it's a generic or a standard or a specialty, but it does say if it's covered in the formulary.
and that's on the county website.
Correct.
LewisCounty.NewYork.gov.
Correct.
Lewis County NY.
And it's over on the right-hand side of the front page. There's a recent news, and about the third item down is the Medicare Advantage proposed plan.
Okay.
Can I also just add that we did learn from Carla, the head of OFA, that she's actually worked through with some retirees specifically who called to go through their plans, and every one of the drugs were on this plan.
That's the biggest concern out there.
Yeah.
Is my medicine covered?
We did have a meeting with our CSEA representative team last week to go through information in general and questions and concerns. That went well. The UP-CU representative for the Sheriff's Road Patrol is not able to be in attendance that day, but we do believe we have general support from both of those unions, and we'll continue to have that support as we move forward. We've begun some reach out to other counties for reference checks. We have not had direct contact with a few of them yet, but I put one quote in here that JJ got from Tioga County. You can read it. They're receiving big savings, and the retirees love the program. So I think we'll hear more of that as we hear back from a couple of these other references. Savings, again, really still hard to put an exact dollar on it, but I think one thing that we wanted to take a look at was from the health system. Jeff and Jerry have done an estimate of what they expect their savings to be. And so what this number is the payments that they make for their retirees' premiums. So they have a share for the retirees, the county has a share for our retirees. They're expecting about a $1.7 million positive from this change. So that's a great thing from the health system. Our number is going to be a little less than that for the county, but from both entities, we expect to see a bottom line impact to benefit our organizations. And then as mentioned a couple times, at the bottom of this page is an updated time schedule. We will be having another informational meeting for any county employee, department managers, future retirees. So that's scheduled for next Tuesday. And then there's been a lot of question about when retiree sessions will be, and those are scheduled now for October 16th and 17th. And there'll be multiple options for in-person and virtual opportunities. And then beginning in November, United Healthcare will start to officially roll out all of the enrollment activity. They submit to Medicare for all of the list of retirees, so that Medicare approves the change, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, as I might have said before, United Healthcare seems to have a very well-oiled machine for this process. And so far, everything I've seen from them seems to be very effective.
Any questions at this time?
If you have questions or hear from constituents on questions, please feel free to keep bringing them forward. That helps, because then we can get good information out to everybody.
So
Thank you.
Eric, my question is, are we asking for the board to consider joining now at the October board meeting so that we would have a resolution ready to that effect?
Yes.
Because in order for the Alliance and United Healthcare to move forward and have these sessions with retirees and all, we have to let them know that we're joining. We do have the ability to terminate that or not fully execute until November, the end of November, I believe.
Yes.
But in order to move forward, we need that resolution to come forward at the October meeting, right?
Yes, right. So at the September meeting, you did a resolution with tentative
To
approval
participate,
to move
right?
forward and participate. We will bring forward another resolution for the October board meeting that says we are going to join the Alliance. So that will be like our official action to do so. We continue to move forward, United Healthcare continues to move forward. They haven't given me like an exact date that if we choose not to participate. I don't know an exact date, but I think it's more towards the end of November. So final action, the October meeting, if for some reason we decide we're not going to go in this direction, we can still change that for another month or so.
The next Tuesday meeting, 9/26, is that for retirees as well, or just for anyone who wants?
Could be for anyone. General information, not specific for the retirees on the process for them and how things are going to transition for them. It's just general information on the plan.
Has anybody brought up possible places where United Healthcare is not accepted?
I mean, we've heard that question, Tom, and I'm not sure, you might not have been in all the last meetings, but an example is St. Joseph's in Syracuse.
Okay.
We know that they do not accept United Healthcare. The way this plan works, somebody can help me with the term, it's,
Medicare Advantage.
well, the Medicare Advantage plan, any provider that is enrolled with Medicare will accept this insurance plan. There's a term for that I'm not recalling.
Yeah, I think the way to think about it is, this is not a United Healthcare plan. This is a healthcare plan that is sponsored and put together by the Broome County Purchasing Alliance that is representative of counties and municipalities across the state. United Healthcare is just the administrator of the plan. So they're not a mistake that folks have made, and that we've seen kind of out in the community is they're going on the United Healthcare website, looking at their Medicare Advantage plans and saying, oh, these things aren't covered. That's not accurate. They should not be going on the United Healthcare website and looking at those Medicare Advantage plans. This is a Broome County Alliance plan that is put together specifically for New York municipalities, and it reflects the strong collective bargaining and strong benefit packages that municipalities across New York State have. So it's not apples to apples, and they shouldn't be looking at United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plans.
Would it help to have something from St. Joe's?
We've got
Would
it.
make people feel better?
Yeah, yep, we have something in writing from St. Joe's. I suppose we can, post that. But people are always gonna be able to find examples. They need to, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. We've got a lot more education to do on this topic, before people are going to, have some of their worries, quelled. But on the other hand, we kind of need to move forward as well, so.
Are we doing a special meeting in October, or are we passing a resolution at our meeting, knowing that the educational meeting is not until the 17th?
The intent is for it to be at your normal meeting in October. And so again, that will be a resolution that says we will join the VCPA. I have been told multiple times that if we continue to move forward and for some reason we're still uncomfortable, we do not have to go through with it and finalize. We've got until late November to make a last minute change.
So we could undo the resolution during a November meeting, or if there was an earlier date, we could have a special meeting to undo the resolution if the retiree meeting doesn't go well.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much, Rick. And thank you, Brian, for being so efficient.
Well, you'll notice I didn't present anything on personnel. That's because we had 65 personnel requests, and I'm not ready to do that yet, so probably next.
Okay, I guess we're ready for resolutions.
Introductory local law number 1-2023, a local law to authorize overriding the tax levy limit established by General Municipal Law 3C, aka 2% tax cap for the Lewis County 2024 budget, and setting the public hearing for November 7th, 2023 at 5:00 p.m.
This is something we do every year, right?
We do this every year. I can say with nearly 100% certainty that we will not be going over the tax cap.
So what would happen at that November meeting, once Ryan has presented his tentative budget, then the board will know and we can just withdraw.
Make a resolution to rescind
We'll
that.
withdraw it, yeah.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Introductory local law number 2-2023, a local law of the County of Lewis providing partial real property tax exemptions for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers pursuant to section 466-A of the real property tax law, and setting the public hearing for November 7th, 2023 at 5:00 p.m.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Establishing new financial goals.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing Samantha Brown as the Lewis County Equitable Business Opportunities Responsible Local Official.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Setting 3 public hearing dates for the Lewis County 2024 Shared Services Plan to be held on November 7th, 2023 at 5:00 p.m., December 5th, 2023 at 5:00 p.m., and December 12th, 2023 at 10:00 a.m. at the County Courthouse, second floor Board of Legislators Chambers, 7660 North State Street, Lowell, New York, for the purpose of receiving input and testimony on the plan from the public, civic business, labor, and community leaders.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
And the last one is setting the public hearing for Agricultural District Number 6, 8-year review to be held on December 5th, 2023 at 5:00 PM in the County Courthouse, second floor, Board of Legislators Chambers, 7660 North State Street, Waltham, New York, for the purpose of receiving public comment regarding the 8-year review of Agricultural District Number 6.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Committee have anything else they want to bring up? Any committee members? If not, I'll entertain a motion the committee adjourn.
Make that motion.
Jessica, second by Josh. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Carried, we are adjourned.